What's good, people? How's everybody, man? How's everybody, man? I hope everybody's cooling, man. On this August summer night, you know what I mean? Hope everybody's lamping, man, taking it easy, man. All is well with me, man. Just a little tired. I was on a plantation earlier today, working, man. Trying to pay some bills. That's all we can do. I just want to, take a little time out, man, and kind of touch on this topic, man. You know what I mean? Um, do your homework on Raymond Lee Washington, man. Do your homework on Raymond Lee Washington. You know what I'm saying? And this video is into response of conversations I have with people on and offline into regards do they believe that, the Crip and Blood demonstration was some form of psyop, or was it kind of CIA plant based, basically kind of created? And my thoughts on that, nah. I don't think the CIA created the Crips and Bloods. I don't think you know, the FBI had anything to do with creating the Crips and Bloods. I don't believe none of that. I don't. Um However, Raymond Washington, born in 1953, murdered in 1979. As a teenager, he started the Crip organization, and he just banned a couple of brothers from around his way together, which turned into basically like a kind of full fledged little street army. And of course, the opposition with the Bloods. We know this. We know the history of it. Um, I think the LAPD were indeed watching him. How charismatic he was, the fact that he could organize and bring a group of people together like that, neighborhoods together like that. Now, I think at the same time, they didn't really see it as a wave that would still be existing today. You know what I'm saying? I think when that when LAPD kind of first ran into them to these street organizations in California, man, specifically LA Crips and Bloods in the late '60s, early '70s. I don't think they really looked at it as if it was going to be a wave that was going to continue to grow and grow into what it became. But however, uh, Raymond, what he created, man, was something that was basically unseen before in any type of gang warfare on any level. From the fighting to the stabbings to the shootings to, neighborhoods just falling together under this banner, under that banner. And then, individuals starting to identify each other with, colors, especially in the West Coast, and particularly in LA, that was never really seen before. Chicago, we all know, their street organizations go back to the '50s, and we know that they basically started that. But what they were doing in LA, uh, I don't know, but it had to be a hell of a demonstration. And the reason I say that is because a lot of people don't know from resources and researches that I've done, when Raymond kind of came home off his bid. I think he was in Tracy, something like that, penitentiary in California. When he came home, a lot of people, a lot of sources basically saying that he wasn't banging no more. You know what I'm saying? Like some saying like he joined some type of motorcycle crew. Others said that, he wasn't with the demonstration no more. And that's understandable. Because if, you live in that life at the age of 14, 15, 16, by the time you turn 22, 23, a lot of times certain people kind of mentally grow and they go in different directions in life. So that's understandable. But there's had to been some type of pivotal point where the LAPD alerted the FBI and the CIA about what was going on in Los Angeles, California with this Crip and Blood organization and what they were doing, to the point that they felt that they could duplicate this and push this wave of red and blue across the United States. I'm not sure what that pivotal point is or was. And that's something that I'm still searching for, because I'm kind of curious about that. I got my own opinions about that. I think somewhere, in the early 70s, I think white America had fully kind of submitted and were allowing Black Americans to finally assimilate into society. Because during the 60s and, early 70s, particularly after Martin Luther King's death, there was riots in damn near every city. Every city. Nashville, Louisville, Little Rock, you know what I'm saying? I mean, from the east, west coast to the south, man, it was riots. Like, Black Americans was putting down, they was putting belt to ass, man. They wasn't playing, you know what I'm saying? They wasn't playing at all. And I think white America had gotten to the point like, all right, man, look, man, let's just get let's get these people, their rights and whatever it is they want. Is just let them assimilate. We don't want no more destruction of our cities. Like, we're gonna stop the redlining, man. Let's just give them what they basically asking for. And kind of seen that. The BPP, the Black Panther Party, the BLA, they put in so much pain. You had, BGF, and you had various other revolutionary groups that were doing their thing, to the point I really believe that, white America was like, all right, man, look, man, we tired of beefing, man. Let's give y'all what y'all want, man. Let's just go ahead, let y'all assimilate the society and let that happen, And around the same time, this movie, which was based off a book called The Spook, That's Set by the Door, had hit the theaters. I believe like 71, 72. And if you don't know what that movie based off that book, A Spook That's Set by the Door, is about, I suggest you do your research, man. Definitely do your homework on that. It was so deep that the CIA pulled that out of the movie theaters in a matter of a week. And I believe that right there had made white Americans actually push back and say, nah, you know what? We not with we can't let these Black Americans assimilate into society, because they're liable to do that. Basically, what was in that movie is Spooked by Set by the Door. And one of the brothers that kind of made that in fruition was the leader of the El Rukns, what we know as the Black Peace Stone Nation, Jeff Fort. Basically. But to tie that into what I was saying about Raymond Washington, man. From my understanding, when he was like 23, 24, he kind of started to fall back from that whole Crip identity, and he was into to other things. And I believe, in my mind, I think LAPD kind of seen this wave of this red and blue, these wars, and they figured to themselves, what better model of self-destruction and death can we push on the black youth than what we see before our eyes going on out here? I believe that. And my theory is this: fast forward to 79. In Oakland, California, they already cooking rock, which we call crack. And that trickled down to LA. So we all know about Contra, the Ronald Reagan situation, about how, they basically kind of, brought coke into here, the whole freeway Rick Ross. We know that whole situation. But to bring that out of the black community in Los Angeles and let it spread wildfire across the states, especially like these small little Midwest towns, these small West Coast towns, these small little southern cities, and to make sure that you can have a prisoner pipeline, you can have a pipeline of prison, excuse me, and also you can have the suppliers with the black faces. Why not introduce this wild west gang culture into the mass of the black population across the states? You see what I'm saying? And my theory, being that Raymond Washington was so influential, a very well influential brother, and my understanding, even if he wasn't gang banging no more, his words still held weight amongst the Crips. You know what I'm saying? So with his counterpart Tookie on the west side, who's basically whacked out his mind, he's off the dust. He's gone. CIA don't really need to do anything with him. He's at that specific time in his life, that specific time in his life, he's basically what they need. Like, he's whacked out his mind. Who cares? But Raymond, if Raymond's not banging no more, but Raymond's actually accessible to a lot of street individuals who really have admiration for him on both sides, red and blue. They might fear, they might want to hurt, but if they see that he's out of the way, they still have that admiration for him because he started this. I believe the CIA or the FBI, I think they took Raymond out. And I think they took Raymond out purely on the strength to push this creation that he kind of left years ago, but to push that Crip and Blood machine across the states in the black community for destruction and death. And just follow my theory, man. I believe if Raymond Washington wasn't killed in 1979, let's say 1983, he was able to live a fulfilling life all the way up to 2000s or something. But let's just say give or take like 1982, 1983. Um, you know, LA, the city of LA, Compton Watts, they were all, basically like doing these little gang specials and trying to say like, they wanted to really get a grip on the gang problem, as people portray. I wonder what would have happened if Raymond would have lived in 1982. Some news cameras from LA, like they found him fixing cars and, some type of commercial garage somewhere. And, they interviewed him like, hey, hey, how you doing? Is your name Raymond Washington? Did you start the Crips and are you still a Crip? And Raymond response was basically, yeah, I started the Crips, but yeah, I don't do that no more, man. I'm a grown man, man. I'm raising my daughter. Him saying that voice, because the sources are telling us that this man was very charismatic. He was very influential. He had that much power and that respect. I believe if he would have physically said that out of his mouth, that he's not with the demonstration no more. He's not doing that. I think within a month's time, that Crip and Blood machine in Los Angeles, Compton, Watts, that whole area right there, I think that gang structure just would have fell apart. And the black community would have went on to something else. I really believe that. And I think that the CIA took him out so he could never be heard. And I believe that along with the introduction of crack that hit the unified states from California all the way to Maine, with the help of the Crips and Bloods to push that, I believe that the CIA manufactured and created that. And whatever lifestyle these brothers was living in California, particularly in LA in the late 60s to the mid 70s, before the blood and Crip thing really kind of spilt out that area, I think that the CIA and the FBI used that as a model, and they put that on the black community across the states. It's a manufactured lifestyle. Yeah, Tookie denounced it, but it's too late. Who's gonna listen to you on death row? Benson Owen, from original Power Rules, he been denounced that. But the one that really had the voice was taken out way before anything could be said. And I really believe that. I really believe that. It's a manufactured street lifestyle that was pushed on black communities outside of Los Angeles, California. I 100% believe that. And that's my spill, man. It's no face the Rambler. Just giving my thoughts about the situation, man. It's something I've been thinking about. I converse with other individuals about that, man. But just let me know in the comment sections, man, what you think of my theory. You have a good night, man. Peace and love. Tomorrow's another way. Tomorrow's another win. Tomorrow's another goal to achieve. Let's get it.